Okay, it's Parsha's Chayei. We learned already that the Baal Shem Tov said the name of a Parsha is the essence of the whole Parsha. So the obvious question is, the Parsha speaks about the passing of Sarah. And yet the whole Parsha is called the life of Sarah. So how could it be called? It should be called Misa Sarah, or something, the death of Sarah. Why is it telling us about... So the truth of the matter is that you don't know a person's life, you don't know the life they lived until they pass away. Right. The legacy that they leave over. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Al tamin ba'atzma chayei misasach. You should not have trust in yourself until the day you die, because, like the Mishnah, the Mefarshim explained, Yechon Kohen Gadol was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years, and then he became an Apikoros. Mm-hmm. Okay, so obviously you can't have trust in yourself until you die. But like we find by Yaakov, the Gemara says if his children are alive, he's alive. So therefore, the Parsha is really teaching us the legacy of Sarah. Moshe, why did you do that?
He wants to see double of you.
Anyway, so this is the legacy of Sarah through Yitzchak and through all the other situations that's spoken about in the Parsha. Another interesting thing. The Parsha begins, this small little thing before we discuss the heavy-duty stuff. There's a story in the Medrash. Rabbi Kiva was once giving a class, and his students fell asleep. No teacher should ever feel bad. Even Rabbi Kiva's students fell asleep. So how did he wake them up? So Rabbi Kiva said to them the following. Do you know why Sarah lived 127 years? Because that's the beginning of the Parsha. Sarah lived 127 years. He says, you know why she lived 127 years? No, I'm sorry. Why did Esther HaMalka rule? At the beginning of the Megillah, it says Ahasuerus ruled 127 countries. So Esther, when she became the queen, ruled 127 countries. So he said to them, do you know why Esther ruled 127 countries? Because she's a descendant of Sarah, who lived 127 years, and therefore she ruled 127 countries. And the Medrash says, all the students woke up. I mean, like, why would that be an issue? Why would that cause... I mean, what's one thing have to do with the next?
And why'd that make him wake up?
Yeah, why did it make him wake up? And what the answer? Because she lived 130... I mean, so Rabbi Kiva is explaining to them the following. Life is made up of seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, centuries, whatever. Countries are made up of houses, blocks, neighborhoods, cities, states, countries. Rabbi Kiva is telling them like this. Because Sarah Imenu lived 127 full years, she didn't sleep away any years. That's why she was able to rule 127 complete countries. But if Sarah would have slept through her life like you guys are doing now, then she wouldn't have ruled 127 full countries. She would have ruled 126 and a half, or 124, or whatever it may be. And this is what's connected, by the way, to a statement. It says, V'Avram v'Sarah Zkenim, in last week's Parsha. It says, V'Avram v'Sarah Zkenim, boyim bayomim. Simply means, Avram and Sarah were old, coming in days. Now that's redundant. Old means coming in days. Coming in days means old. Why is the Torah saying both things? She was old, coming in days. So the Zohar says, very interestingly, there's two things. You could be old and you weren't coming in days because half your life you wasted doing who knows what. What it means by Avram and Sarah, and again in this week's Parsha, again it says when we sent out to get a shidduch, it says Avram Zakim Baba Yomim, in Perek Dalet Pasuk Aleph, Avram Zakim Ba Bayamim. Again, the Zohar says, what does it mean, Zakim Ba Bayamim? It's redundant. It means not only was Avram old, but Ba Bayamim means every day was filled, every day was complete. So Rabbi Akiva basically told the students, why are you wasting away your life sleeping? Because that would cause that Sarah wouldn't be able to rule 127 full countries. And we'll see later in more detail what that's supposed to mean. But there's a very interesting question over here that very, very few of the commentaries even discuss. And it's really, if you just look at the thing very simple, it doesn't make sense. After the Akedah, okay, after last week's Parsha, when Avram was supposed to kill Yitzchak and he did, so the pasuk says, "Vayoshev Avram el Na'arav." Avram came back to Yishmael and Eleazar who were there. Vayokuma vayochi after Beersheva. They went to Beersheva. Vayeshev Avraham beBeersheva. Avram lived in Beersheva. What happened to Yitzchak? In this week's Parsha, okay, it says Sarah died at 127. Sarah died, and then it says Vayavei Avraham. Third pasuk of the second pasuk of the Parsha, yeah. Vayavei Avraham. Avraham came, lisped l'Sarah, to mourn for Sarah.
Where's Yitzchak?
Where's Yitzchak? His mother died. It doesn't even say. There's no mention of Yitzchak. Right after the Akedah, Avram goes back to Beersheva. Okay. So to preface it with, the Medrash says, well, how did Sarah die? So it says the Satan tried stopping Avram Avinu from doing the Akedah, and he was not successful. So therefore, what did he do? The Satan went to Sarah and said, you know what's going on? Your husband took your kid in the middle of the night, and he's going to kill him. And so there's two opinions. One is she died from fright. Another opinion was that somebody came and said it's not true, and she died from joy. Okay, there was too much, it was literally and physically too much for her heart, so she couldn't take it. Okay, so she died because of the Akedah. What happened to Yitzchak? There is no mention of Yitzchak anywhere. I mean, he didn't come, his mother died, he didn't come. Where was he?
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, and even after the Akedah, where did he go? So if you want to say, like Rashi doesn't even mention, if you want to say in Pshat, the answer is, yeah, it's self-understood. But the Torah seems to say a statement, Avram came to mourn for her. Uh-huh. And the Torah could have said, hey, Avram and Yitzchak, you know? It doesn't say that. Before, after the Akedah, Yitzchak somehow got lost.
I mean, we've only learned this a million times, and I've never thought to ask that question.
I mean, it's such an obvious, I know.
It's so crazy obvious.
It's called in Yiddish, there's an expression, a klotz kasha, means a question so obvious and nobody asks it.
Right.
I mean, it's such an obvious question. Where was Yitzchak? Didn't his mother died, he couldn't come. What's wrong with him? So there's a few answers. One answer is, the Medrash says that Yitzchak did come to tell Sarah that he's alive. And then she died from excitement. So he really was there. So he didn't come because he was there. Okay. Now, not only that which explains another thing. Avram lived in Beersheba. Okay. How does Sarah get to Hebron? But Thomas Sarah bekir't ahi Hebron. Okay. Sarah died in the city of Hebron. But Avram Avinu was living in Beersheba. In fact, Vayavei Avraham, Rashi says he came from Beersheba, where he was living, to Hebron, where Sarah died. So some people say that she thought he was being akaded in Hebron, which is not true. He was akaded in Har Maria, which was Yerushalayim, and the altar Avram Avinu made to kill him was the same place exactly where the Mizbeach was in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay. But somebody said he was in Hebron, so Sarah ran to Hebron. Okay, that's how Avram Avinu went from Beersheba to Hebron. How did Sarah die? Why did Sarah die? She obviously was with her husband. So why? Because she went to Hebron looking for Yitzchak. Okay. So some commentaries explain like this. Where did Yitzchak go? right straight from the Akedah, he became holy, like a sacrifice. So he went away to Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever. Yeshiva in those days where they taught Torah. So therefore he wasn't there when his mother died. He didn't even know about it. Didn't have expressed, texting and emails. And he didn't come because he wasn't there. He didn't know about it. He went to Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever. Another interesting medrash was brought down. The Rebbe that elaborates on a lot, and that is that he went to Gan Eden. Straight from the Akedah, he went straight up to Gan Eden. Now, what does it mean he went straight up to Gan Eden? Some opinions say he went for 2 years. Some opinions say he went for 3 years. He went to Gan Eden. And then, when Eleazar was looking for the shidduch, and it says Yitzchak was coming after he came back with Rivka, right? He says, Perak Chav Dalid, Pasuk Samech Beis. It says, V'Yitzchak bo mi be'er lachai ro'i. Okay? So Rashi says he went to get Hagar. But the Medrash says, where was Yitzchak coming from? He was coming from Gan Eden, back down to earth. In fact, according to that Medrash, he came down head first, and that's when Rivka saw him, she was a little shocked. I mean, the guy's coming down this way. Instead of upright, he was coming down, face down. Okay? So the bottom line is that Yitzchak went to Gan Eden as a preparation for his marriage. Okay? That answer, by the way, that Yitzchak was 2 years in Gan Eden, answers a big question in next week's Parsha, Parshas Toldos, that we'll Mitzvah Shem say next week at the class, how Yitzchak being in Gan Eden answers a very difficult question at the beginning of next week's Parsha.
Smell.
No, they saw. That in Toldos later on, it says, when Yaakov came in, he smelled Gan Eden. Right? Esav came in, he felt Gehenna.
Right.
That's in next week's Parsha. So it says in the Medrash, how did Yitzchak know what Gan Eden smelled like? So that's one of the things, that Yitzchak was in Gan Eden for 2-3 years, so he knew what Gan Eden smelled like. So when Yaakov came into him with the delicacies that he should get the brach, when he took it away from Esav, it was actually, he knew what Gan Eden was because he lived there. Okay, anyway. The bottom line is, that's why Yitzchak wasn't there when his mother died. And that's why Yitzchak wasn't there right after Beersheba. Avram Avinu went back himself to Beersheba. Sarah died in Hebron. She went to Hebron looking for him. She died, but Yitzchak wasn't around. So what's the lesson the Rebbe says from everything in Torah? And to preface it, the first marriage mentioned in Torah is the wedding of Yitzchak and Rivka. Obviously, Adam and Chava got married. The Medrash says that Hashem made a chuppah, Hashem was the officiating rabbi of Adam and Chava in Gan Eden. I don't know who they used as witnesses, I don't know. But, Hashem, Noach obviously got married. Avram and Sarah were definitely married. But the first wedding Torah mentions is Yitzchak and Rivka. And that's so important, we're going to discuss soon in great detail, why things are going on in this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, that the Torah goes on and on and on and repeats itself, because this is the first major shidduch. So what's the Torah teaching us by telling us that Yitzchak went to Gan Eden? The Medrash is teaching us that if you want to establish a marriage, a nice, proper Jewish home, you got to remove yourself from the world for a little bit of time. You got to learn Torah. Get yourself a good foundation of Yiddishkeit, of Torah and mitzvahs, and then you can go get married. And that's why Yitzchak went to Gan Eden for 2-3 years, different opinions, 2 years or 3 years. He went to Gan Eden because he understood, before you get married, before you're going to build a Jewish home, you need a strong foundation. So then you need to do that. In fact, there's a very interesting story with Rebbe Rashab, whose birthday is Chav Cheshvan, in a few days. today was Yud Zayin, and 3 days is his birthday. So when he instituted the Chabad Yeshiva in Russia, he took brilliant heads, and like the secular bright people were saying that the Rebbe Rashab turned the world back 50 years. He took brilliant heads, and instead of them developing it scientifically in medicine, he made them into serious yeshiva boys. And they were very, very fanatic in the yeshiva, extremely fanatic. So somebody once asked the Rebbe Rashab, why do you have to make the boys in yeshiva so fanatic? Just, be normal religious Jews. Why do you have to make them so fanatically crazy? So the Rebbe Rashab gave him the answer as follows. Nowadays, we don't have those types of ovens unless you go to a matzah bakery. Okay, how did the ovens in yesteryear work? You would put coals on the floor of the oven, heat up the oven very hot. Then when you wanted to bake or cook, you pushed away the coals, like in a matzah bakery. You push away the coals, and then you cook the food. So then, if you needed, let's say, 400 degrees to bake something, you couldn't heat up the oven to 400 degrees. Because as soon as you push away the coals, the oven starts cooling down. So if you want to bake at 400, you have to heat up the oven to 600. Then when you push the coals away, it will stay at 400. But if you can heat it up to 400, it's only going to go down to 300. So the Rebbe Rashab said the following. When somebody gets married, even the most Chassidic person, when they got married, the Zohar calls it Noches Daka, descent of a level. You have a yoke of making a living on your head. You have a family. It's not the same as you are in the yeshiva. So he says, let's say a bacher, a young married guy, in order to be frum, you need 400 degrees of Yiddishkeit. Let's say, I can't heat you up in yeshiva to 400 degrees, because then you're going to cool down.
Right.
We need to heat you in yeshiva to be a fanatic. We need to heat you to 600 degrees. And then when you go out of yeshiva, you'll stay religious at 400 degrees. That's the story with Yitzchak. So therefore, the Rebbe explains that you need a preparation for what marriage is. The concept of going to Gan Eden, meaning removing yourself from the world, and then the world doesn't affect you as much. They have this on a daily basis, by the way. Before somebody goes out into business world or to take on the world, no matter what they're doing, first in the morning they have to daven. They have to get warmed up in Yiddishkeit a little bit. Then they need to learn a little bit. Then they have this protection, this warmth already daily. Then when you go out into the world will not corrupt you. So this is all being taught from me, the fact that Yitzchak went to Gan Eden for 2 years to teach us that you need to remove yourself from the worldly environment, that when you go out there, instead of the world influencing you, you are influencing them. That's the lesson from Yitzchak going to Gan Eden. Okay, now we have like this. Avraham Avinu calls in Eleazar, okay? By the way, there's one interesting thing. Avraham Avinu paid from Ma'aras and Machpelah 400 shekel kesef, 400 real expensive coins. Ephraim told him, $2 million, what's the, and he charged them an exorbitant price. So there's a Rishen called Panei Achroza. He was one of the, like Rashi's time, a little bit after Rashi. And he says a very interesting thing. Later on in Chumash Vayikra, there's a din, if somebody has a base cord, which is a measurement of a field, which is 75,000 square amma, an amma is a cubit, right? It's 2 feet by 2 feet, let's say. So you redeem a base cord, if you let's say you made it hegdish, and now you want to redeem it, the price is, no matter what the value of the field is, you have to pay 50 shekel kesef. You have to pay 50 silver coins for 75,000 square amas. Now, Avraham Avinu paid 400,000. That's 8 times the 400 shekel kesef is 8 times the 50 shekels for redeeming the field. 8 times 75,000 square feet is 600,000 square feet. That means when Avram Avinu bought Ma'aras Machpelah and he paid 400 shekel kesef, he writes, he actually redeemed 600,000 square amma, and amma again is 2 feet by 2 feet approximately. That means Avram Avinu bought land for 600,000 represents the Jewish people. He bought land in Eretz Yisrael for every single Jew.
Wow.
That's what he says. That's why Avram Avinu paid what he did, and he didn't argue the price because then he was able to buy actually. And there's another interesting. This is off the topic, but Maras Machpelah Avram Avinu bought, even though Hashem gave him the land. He could have come to Ephraim and said, "It's my land." Right? Hashem promised him the land. David HaMelech bought Yerushalayim from Aravna. Goya Aravna who owned Yerushalayim. And it says in, wherever it is, in Tanakh somewhere, that David HaMelech bought Yerushalayim. The question is, David HaMelech didn't have to buy it, it's ours. Because those two things, Ma'aras Machpelah, which is Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov, and the wives, Odom and Chava, and Yerushalayim, they didn't want to have any issues with it at all. We bought it.
Didn't we buy Shechem too?
Yeah, well, Yaakov Avinu bought Shechem. You're right, but that was earlier. Yeah, Yaakov Avinu bought Shechem, but the main thing is Avram Avinu bought Maras Machpelah, that there shouldn't be any question who it belongs to, and David HaMelech bought Yerushalayim, that it also should be no question whatsoever who it belongs to. Okay, now. Let's analyze a good part of the Parsha and just discuss the general concept of it. Avram Avinu calls in his servant Eleazar. Okay? And what's interesting to note, not once in the Parsha is he called Eleazar. Not once. The only way we know it's Eleazar because the Medrash says it was Eleazar. Okay? Avram Avinu, it says, Vayomer Avram el Avdo Zakam Beisei. Vayomer ha'Eved. Everything is the Eved. Eliezer comes to make the Shidduch pitch. He says, Eved Avram Anechi. His name is not mentioned at all. Okay? Then Avram Avinu tells him, you have to go find the Shidduch. Eliezer wanted Yitzchak to marry his own. He had a daughter. Avram said, you're cursed, you're a slave. It's not happening. Okay. So the pasuk says the whole story. He went and he's by the well, and the girl's saying, and he said, whoever comes and says, I'll give you the camel, I'll give water to you and the camels, and Okay. Then he gives her the rings and everything, and then he comes to get the shidduch going again, and he goes through the whole story. The Torah enumerates every single detail again. The Torah could have said in one pasuk, Eliezer told them everything that happened. It doesn't. It goes into the whole Megillah over and over again. Okay? What exactly Eliezer did and why? So Rashi says, by the way, Rashi says,
Which pasuk?
where the Rashi is, 1 second.
Eliezer was from Canaan, right?
Yeah, Eliezer was Canaan. Here. And in Pasik Parak Chavdal, Pasik Membeis. Amar Ravacha. Yafa Sichosin Shel Avdei Avis. The talk of the servants of the patriarchs is more precious than Torah Shabbanim, than the Torah of the Jews learning. Why? Because Parsha Eliezer is repeated in Chumash, and many laws of Torah we learn out from an extra letter or a style. Okay, so you can imagine the Rashi or this Rashi brings it down from the Medrash. Amar Ravacha said, the Sichosin Shel Avdei Avis is more precious to Hashem, and therefore the Torah goes through the whole Megillah again. Okay, but let's understand why. What is so special with the shidduch between Yitzchak and Rivka. And, okay, I'm going to say what the purpose is and then how Eleazar as an Eved gets into that. Yitzchak and Rivka, what's wrong?
I just need tissue, please.
Yeah, we don't have any up here.
I'm sorry.
Question,
Yeah,
was Eleazar, Damascus the same as, was it part of Israel?
no. No, it wasn't. It wasn't part of it. Damascus was Damascus.
Eleazar the Damascus from Damascus.
I know he was from Damascus. One opinion says he was from Damascus. Another opinion says Damascus was, it's an acronym for he taught his Rebbe's teachings of Torah to other people.
Oh, okay.
Rashi said, Dolo Mashke mitorasa shel Rabban la'acherim. He taught his Avram Avinu's Torah to everybody else. But the question over here is, why in the world is the Torah elaborating so much on the story with Yitzchak getting married to Rivka, when the Torah could have said it once and then said, he told him the whole story that happened. Okay, so this Yitzchak and Rivka shidduch is the whole neshama coming into the body. This is what life is all about, is this shidduch between Yitzchak and Rivka. Now let's understand. Yitzchak was a korban ola. He was brought up as a korban. He didn't actually get killed, but Hashem said, you're a ola. You're a burnt offering. You're a korban. That's what Hashem said to him. Yitzchak was never allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. Avram left. Yaakov went to Lavan's house. Yitzchak, Hashem told him when there was a hunger and he wanted to go down to Mitzrayim, Rashi calls in the Medrash later on, Hashem said to him, you can't go into Egypt. You're a holy Jew. You're a korban. You can't go into Chutz La'aretz outside of Eretz Yisrael to a corrupt place like Egypt. You can't. Yitzchak represents the epitome of holiness.
Right.
Rivka was, as the Medrash calls it, Shoshana bein ha'chaychim, a rose amongst the thorn bushes. Okay, the thorn bush, around the rose is a thorn bush. Rivka grew up in Besuel's house with a rotten father, a rotten brother, evil Besuel, evil Lavan, and yet she was saved. Okay, she was good. So, Yitzchak represents the neshama. Like we said last time, Avram and Sarah represent neshama and Gof. But even more so, Yitzchak and Rivka represent neshama and the body. Rivka represents the bein ha'chaychim, between the thorns, the body, and Yitzchak represents the neshama. What does this neshama have to do? The neshama of a Jew is sent down into the world to deal with, the world is like corrupt, like Lavan, Besuel, it's a thorn bush, you can get hurt, it's a dangerous world. And the purpose of Yitzchak is to pluck Rivka out of that evil environment and make it holy. What is the role of a Jew? The role of a Jew is to take the body, the neshama is holy. The neshama we don't have to make holy, the neshama of a Jew is holy. What we need to do is to make the body of the Jew holy, and that's the purpose of Yitzchak coming down and to marry Rivka, because that's what it's all about, the purpose of the neshama coming into the world. Now, how do you get that role? So again, we learn out everything from Chumash. Now I'll explain there's two types of people. There's an Eved. Eleazar was Eved. Okay? Then you have what's called a Shliach, an agent, a messenger. Both are really representing the master that sends him, either the sender or the master, the Odin that sends the guy to do the job. What's the difference between an Eved and a Shliach, halachically? Eved, like we find in the Parsha, Eleazar had no entity of his own. He didn't even say, I'm Eleazar Eved Avram. He said, Eved Avram Anechi. You know, want to know who I am? My name is the servant of Avram. I am the extension of Avram Avinu's hand. Which means as follows. There's a din in halacha that if an Eved, a slave, a goyish slave by the way, picks up an object for the master acquires it. But in Gemara, in the commentaries of the Gemara, the Rishonim write, it's not that the slave acquired it and then it goes to the master.
Mm-hmm. Oh, never happened.
When the slave picks it up, he is the hand of the master. Okay, you have to be an Eved. Eved means you don't even have a name. he didn't have a name. He was Eved Avram Anechi. I'm the existence of Avram Avinu. Then you have a shliach. Shliach is an agent. So yeah, shliach shaladim kamoso. The shliach is also like the one that sends him. But there's a fundamental difference between them. And that is, an Eved has no brains of their own. He doesn't think. What the master tells him to do, that's what he has to do. A shliach, an agent, is given a task to do, but he has to figure it out how to do it. I know when the head shliach went to England, you're talking about in the early 50s, yeah, or maybe late 50s, he asked the Rebbe guy, and the Rebbe said to him, listen, I'm making you a shliach to do it. Now figure out yourself how to do it. I'm giving you the job, now figure it out yourself how to do it. What needs to be done, where and how, and how to do it. So you need to figure it out yourself. When a neshama is coming into the body, okay, how does this happen? Through a shatchen. The shatchen here was Eleazar. Eved Avram is the shatchen. That means when the neshama goes into the body, there has to be two levels. He has to be a shliach, he had a din of a shliach, and he had a din of an eved, which means like this. Hashem, the neshama comes into the body to fulfill a mission. Okay, make a dwelling place for God, make the world holy, make ourselves holy. By making ourselves holy, we make the world holy. Okay, that's what we need to do, make ourselves and the world holy. Where do we get the power and the strength to do it? Because Hashem made Eleazar swear. He said swear. He said, I'm going to do it. Yeah? So he says...
This is the oath, the thigh swearing.
Well, he says, okay, I'm going to do it. Then he says like this. He made him swear. he held on to his bris. That was the only thing, because when you swear in court or to God in Torah, it has to be on a Sefer Torah. It has to be on a holy object. The only object that became holy, was Avram Avinu's bris milah, because Hashem commanded him to do it. So therefore the bris, but everything the Rambam says, the Medrash says, Reichus hayu, it's based on Pasuk Shir Hashem, Shemen Turak Shmecha, okay? It says that what the Torah mitzvahs that the Ovis did not make the world holy. It didn't make the world holy. It says in the Zohar, when Yaakov Avinu played with the colored sticks in Lavan's house, the colored stuff with the animals, that was like us putting on tefillin. But by us, the tefillin is holy. By them, it wasn't holy. There was no kedusha in the sticks. Because before Matan Torah, is like the example the Medrash says, that, you walk into a perfume store,
Right.
you're going to smell perfume. You might even walk out smelling from a little bit of perfume. But you didn't put it on you. It's just the smell of it. Before Matan Torah, it was only the smell of Kedusha. It wasn't Kedusha until Hashem broke the barrier at Matan Torah. One mitzvah Avraham Avinu had that Hashem commanded him to do, therefore Hashem broke the barrier and made it holy, was his bris milah. That was the only object possible. Okay? Now, so Eleazar is going on this mission.
What about all the chesed he did and all the...
Who? That didn't make the world holy.
I mean, all the guests he brought in, all that...
Did not make them holy. In fact, you know, it says Avram was Megayer, the men, and Sarah converted the women. Mm-hmm. Yes, so the Medrash says, what happened to all of them?
Yeah.
They all disappeared, disintegrated. It was not permanent. Permanency of the Kedusha in the world was only by Matan Torah. That was the uniqueness of Matan Torah.
Really?
That the world was able to... Okay, I don't want to get into it now. Look at the Ten Commandments. Okay? Everything in the Ten Commandments, basically, they kept before. The 7 Noahide laws,
Right.
okay? You have already idolatry, adultery, and murder. Okay? So the first 2 of the 10 Commandments says Avodah Zarah. Okay? Kabbalistic and Chassidic, we find in Chumash, even Esav did it. Shabbos, they were given in Mora before Matan Torah, right after Kriyas Yamsuf. Not to steal, not to kill, not to commit. And what are the earth-shattering things? What's the big tumult of Matan Torah, the big commotion of Matan Torah? Hashem basically didn't say anything new. You know, if it would be up to me, he would say the things are illogical. I'm giving you the Torah, okay, don't wear shatnez. You know, wool is kosher, linen is kosher, put them together is treif. Don't eat meat and milk, you know. What did he tell them already? So it's not for now, but the bottom line of it is, Matan Torah did, what Matan Torah accomplished was that the physical world became holy. And the only thing Avraham Avinu had that Eleazar could swear on was his bris milah, as immodest as it is. But the bottom line is that's the only thing he was able to swear on. Okay? So now you have like this. So Eleazar is going on a mission of connecting Yitzchak and Rivka. Just think about it in a more general, broader picture. Eleazar is going to make a shidduch between Neshama, Yitzchak, and Rivka Guf. Okay? Now, where did we get that power from? Avraham Avinu made him swear. Avraham Avinu made him swear. And that gave him the ability to accomplish the mission. The Gemara says, the Gemara Nida says, it's the opening statement of Tanya, that before the Neshama comes into the world, Mashbi and Naisei, we given an oath, you should be a tzaddik and not a rasha. Tihi tzaddik, v'al ti rasha. So the Neshama is admitted, this is the simple definition. The simple meaning of the Gemara Nida is, before the Neshama descends into the world, the Neshama is administered an oath, you should be a tzaddik and not a rasha. So the obvious question is, you're talking about the Neshama. The Neshama wants to be a tzaddik. You're not giving it to the body, you're giving it to the Neshama. Right? Why are you giving the power to the Neshama? I mean, an oath to the Neshama. Neshama doesn't need it. The body needs it. So Chassidus explains, Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Mashbian means an oath, Shvuah, but Mashbian also means Soveya. We say in bench, V'chalta, V'savata, Uberachta. Sevia means to become full, satisfied. V'chalta, you eat, V'savata, you become full. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says like this, Mashbian Eisei, what does it mean we give the Neshama the oath? It doesn't mean give him an oath. What is the oath, by the way? The oath is that Masbian Eisei, we give the Neshama the strength and the ability to overcome the body, that he could be a tzaddik and not a rasha. Because the Gemara, the Pasuk in Tehillim says, Tzeifa rasha l'tzaddik u'mevakesh hamisei. The Yetzer Hara, the rasha, is looking out to the tzaddik, i.e. the Yetzer Tov, and he wants to kill him. He wants to kill him. Okay? And the Pasuk says, Hashem lo yazvenu biyad. Hashem doesn't let him do it. But the Gemara says it even stronger. The Gemara says, if Hashem would not help the godly soul, he would never be able to overcome not the body and not the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is a behemoth. Nefesh habahamis. The neshama is a person. Trust me, when there's a battle between an ox and a person, the ox wins. Okay? So where does the Jew get the koyach? Where does the Jew get the ability that he could be a tzaddik and not a rasha? This mashbi'an means you give it a vow. What's a vow? We've learned this many times. Marriage vows. Yeah, it's this expression, marriage vows. What do you need a vow for? What do you need? Chuppah v'kedushin, so to speak, a vow, marriage vow, yeah? You're good, you're good. You're not good, you're not good. I mean, what's the... The answer is, because sometimes when things are going good, of course you're friends. What happens when things don't go so good? They don't go so well. So then if you're just friends, it's okay, you're not my friend anymore. But marriage is not supposed to be that. Marriage is supposed to be, as the expression goes, to death we part. Not always, but to death we part. So what does the vow of marriage do? Then this is what Chassidus explains in great length. The vow of marriage means, or like David and Yonatan made a pact between them. What are they making a pact? The pact is, even when things are not easy, the vow gives us the strength to keep doing it, even when it's not easy. This is what the Gemara says, Mashbi'an Eisei, the Neshama is administered in oath, Tihi Tzadik V'alti Rasha, you should be a Tzadik and not a Rasha. That means this is like Avram Avinu made Eleazar swear when he's going to connect in Yitzchak and Rivka, the Neshama and the body. So where do we find this on a daily basis? The Neshama, before it comes into the body, is administered the oath, meaning it's given the power and the ability that it could be a tzaddik and not a rasha. That's the strength it has.
What was his fear? What did Eleazar do wrong?
Rashi says from the Medrash, Eleazar had a daughter. Okay, and he wanted Yitzchak to marry her. So he said, no, it's not happening.
That was the only thing he was worried about?
Yeah. Or no. Avram Avinu knew who Lavan was, who Besuel was. He knew they wanted to poison him. Right? In this week's Parsha, at the end, it says, Vayusam lefanav lechol. They put poison in front of Eliezer. They wanted to kill him. A malach came and switched it. That's why Besuel died. That night, that's why the next day only Lavan's talking. Besuel died. Why did Besuel die? He wanted to feed Eliezer poison, that this shouldn't happen. So Avram knew there was going to be difficulties. He knew there was going to be difficulties. But therefore he made him swear that he'll overcome all. It gives him a strength from above, by the way, a strength of Avram. And that's why he said the whole thing, Eved Avram Anech, I'm not an entity. All I am is a servant of Avram. Every Jew is also a shliach of Hashem in their mission. But again, the Eved is a non-existent entity. No brains of its own. In fact, there's a very interesting story in the Gemara when it speaks about, it's learned in the Tisha B'Av, Kamsa bar Kamsa, the story of, so over there it says, when the hunger started, Mercer's Bazbaisis, who's the richest woman in Yerushalayim, sent out her slave to buy fine flour. He came back and he said, there's no fine flour, there's only second-class flour. She said, go buy it. He came back, he said, no, there's only third-class flour. By the time he got back, he woke up, there was no food. And she died of hunger. Yeah?
A peel or something.
Whatever. She ate the date that Rab Tzaddik was eating. He fasted 40 years. The point is, how stupid can the Eved be? He sees there's a hunger. Okay, there's no fine flour. Buy the next type. And then he ended up buying nothing. Because that was the fear in those days of a slave that had for a master. There was no using your own brain. The master said, like a goylem. The master said, fine flour, that's fine flour. There's no buy the next grade, at least you'll have what... No, it doesn't work like that. Shliach is supposed to be using his brain. That's the difference between Eved and a Shliach. But it's interesting, in order to do the mission of the Neshama in the body, you need to have Simcha. the word shliach, shin, lamed, yud, ches, is the same letters as sameach. Yud and lamed is 10 and shin, lamed, yud, ches. Right? So lamed yud
So it's hard.
is 30 and 10 is 40, is a mem. Right? So you have a shin, lamed yud is a mem, and then you have ches, is sameach. You need to have simcha. Not only that, but the Rebbe said countless times, this is interesting, because this parsha is many times the kinnis of the shluchim. This year it's not that it's told us, whatever. But the Rebbe would always, when he spoke to the shluchim at the Farbrengen about the mission, the Rebbe would always speak about this shlichus of Eleazar, the way he was the Eved, Avraham Anech, the concept of bittul, doing what your mission is. At the same time, you have to figure out yourself how to do it. But the Rebbe says even another interesting thing. The word shliach, okay, equals shit like a sin memches. Sameach is 348. Sameach, shliach equals 348. If you take another yud, then it equals 358, which is a numerical value of Mashiach. So the Rebbe used to say many times, when a shliach works with a yud with the 10 powers of his soul, when a shliach works with the 10 powers of his soul, he brings Mashiach. But that's this whole thing about what Avraham Avinu, why the Torah is elaborating so much on this shlichus, because it has to be, it's a mission of the neshama and the guf. It's a mission of every single Jew. And by the way, it's a mission every day. You go out into the world, you have to bring Kedusha into the world. So you're bringing the Kedusha of Yitzchak into the world of Rivka before he took her out. Okay, another interesting point because of all this. When Eliezer went to the well, okay, in Pasuk, in Parachav Dalet, Pasuk Tezvav. Okay? What did Eliezer comes to the well? Looking for a shidduch. If you're looking for a shidduch, you go to the wells. That's what Yaakov Avinu did, and that's what Eliezer with Yitzchak did. Moshe Rabbeinu, you're right, they all went to the water. That's where you find your shidduch. Anyway, so he's davening to Hashem, and he's saying, Hashem, you need to help me. A girl that will come out and say that I will give you to drink and your camels to drink, that is the girl that's proven. So the pasuk says like this, Vayehihu terem kilo ladaber, before he finished speaking. He didn't even finish his davening to Hashem. The pasuk says, Vayehihu terem kilo ladaber. He didn't even finish speaking yet, and Rivka went out. So the Medrash says, Eliezer was so great that before he even finished, he was answered. And the Medrash says like this, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he finished davening to Hashem, when the Mishkan was done, he davened to Hashem to bring down the Shekhinah. It says when he finished davening, the Shekhinah came down. Shlomo HaMelech, when he finished the Beis HaMikdash and he davened to Hashem, okay, now God, the house is ready, move in. It says when he finished davening, that's when Hashem appeared. Eliezer, terem kilo ledaber. And the Medrash says that in this respect, Eliezer was greater than Moshe Rabbeinu and Shlomo HaMelech. They had to wait until they finished davening. Hashem answered them. Eliezer with the Shidduch story was so great that before he finished speaking, Hashem answered him already. Why? What?
Because he has no agency. He's Eved Abraham. So it's really Abraham. Like if he's just an extension of his master.
But why? You're right. But you think about it, bringing godliness into the Beis HaMikdash, bringing godliness into the Mishkan would be pretty holy. Right? Why was Eliezer in this Shidduch story? Again, more, okay, than Moshe Rabbeinu and more than Shlomo HaMelech.
Because of Vittel?
So the Rebbe
There's no
explained.
shidduchim, there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's nothing.
Who's talking?
That's me,
Hi, me. Who's me?
Ruvain,
Oh, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Good. So the Rebbe explains, interesting. The Shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka is the neshama in the guf doing Torah mitzvahs. The Rebbe explains Torah mitzvahs is greater than prophecy, i.e. Moshe Rabbeinu, greater than the Beis HaMikdash, which is Shlomo HaMelech. Doing Torah and mitzvahs, the neshama in the body, is greater than prophecy, is greater than the Beis HaMikdash, because Torah and mitzvahs is connecting to Hashem, to the essence of Hashem, not to prophecy, which is a revelation. Great as it is, it's a revelation of Hashem. The Gilui of the Shechina in the Beis HaMikdash, which was also a revelation of Hashem. Eleazar is the neshama in the guf, making the shidduch of, the neshama functioning in the guf, is a level of the vaida of the neshama in guf. There's nothing greater than Torah mitzvahs. And that's why there's an interesting halacha. The Rambam brings it down when he speaks about the laws of building the Beis HaMikdash. It's a Gemara, but you don't stop kids learning even to build the Beis HaMikdash. Jewish kids learning Torah is more important than the Beis HaMikdash, more important than prophecy. So Torah mitzvahs, and that's why Hashem said, before you even answered him, he got this great answer already from Hashem, that's it, you're answered already. Because Hashem is showing us how important it is for the neshama to do Torah mitzvahs. Okay, another interesting thing in this Sedra. It says like this. Avram got old. Baba Yomim, coming in days. So we explained, the Zohar says, not only was he old, every day was reckoned for. Okay. But now, the Gemara says in Baba Metzia a very interesting thing. What do you mean Avram Zakein, Avram got old? It doesn't say Noach Zakein, it doesn't say Adam Zakein, it doesn't say Mesoshelach Zakein. The first guy that says Zakein, that he was old, is Avram Avinu. And the Gemara says in Baba Metzia, Ad Avram Lahaisa Zikna. Until Avram Avinu, there was no aging in the world. Nobody aged. All the beauty care products were non-necessary. There was no aging. The first one to age was Avram Avinu. The first one in world to ever get sick was Yaakov Avinu. The Torah says, Yosef was told, so he sent the two boys to get blessed. The Gemara says, until Yaakov Avinu, there was no illness in the world. How did people die if they weren't sick? They sneezed. The neshama, it said, Vayipach ba'apav, Hashem blew the neshama into the nose. So how did they leave the nose? When they came their time to go, they sneezed, the neshama left the body, and that was it, they died. There was no illness. Until Avram Avinu, there was no aging. Everybody looked the same. So why did Hashem make for Avram aging and for Yaakov illness? So let's first say Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu wanted to bless his children. He said to God, I need to know when I'm dying. Give me a hint. Give me a warning that I'm dying, that I can bless my children. I want to bless them, the 12 Shvatim. So Hashem said, okay, I'll give you a warning. He made him sick. And that's where illness became in the world. You know why when somebody sneezes, you say, bless you, zu gesundheit, right? Because years ago, when somebody coughs, you don't say zu gesund. You don't say bless you. Because when a person sneezed years ago, they used to die. That was the way they died. Somebody sneezed and they died. Finished. So Yaakov Avinu said to Hashem, I want to bless my children. Let me know about it. So he gave him warning. Avram Avinu, Rashi says, because Eila told us Yitzchak ben Avram Heila this Yitzchak, beginning in next week's Parsha, by the way. Rashi says, from the Medrash, why does the Pasuk says, it repeats itself. It says, this is the generation, these are the offshoots of, one second, let me just get the Pasuk. Here. Eila told us Yitzchak ben Avram, this is the generation of Yitzchak, the son of Avram. Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. It's repeating. So Rashi says, why was it? The late Sonim, the mockers of the generation, were saying, Sarah really got pregnant from Avimelech. She was married to Avram for so long, never got pregnant. When Avimelech took her, even though Avram... So what did Hashem do? Hashem made Yitzchak look a spitting image of Avram. Avram and Yitzchak looked identical. What was the problem with that? Nobody knew who was the father, nobody knew who was the son. So Avram said, Hashem, do me a favor. I need you to make me look old, that people should know I'm the father. And then, so that's how people knew that Avram was the father and Yitzchak was the child. And that's why Hashem made old age in the world. There's a story, we'll finish with this, there's an interesting story about Shem Tov. A guy once walked into somebody's house and he sees a young guy beating a guy that looks like him but much older version, and he's beating him and he says, you work, you lazy bum, what you are, go work harder and clean the house better. So the guy thought it's a son screaming at his father. He said to him, a little bit of respect for your father. He said, are you kidding? The young guy says, I'm the father and this old guy is the son. I'm the father. He says, how did you merit to be old and look like this? So he told him, he once cleaned the Baal Shem Tov's house. And he came into the Baal Shem Tov's room to clean it, and he saw the Baal Shem Tov had slippers near the bed. So the guy said, when I was cleaning up, I didn't know, should I pick up the slippers and dust underneath it? Or if the Baal Shem Tov put the slippers down, I shouldn't move them. He decided, I'm not going to move the slippers. He left them there. He cleaned around it. Baal Shem Tov came back into the room, and he asked him, did you move the slippers? He said, no. So Baal Shem Tov gave him a bracha, you should live long like you are now. You should live long looking like you are now. So he said, I'm the father, but I look young because the Baal Shem Tov gave me a bracha to look young. So Avram wanted to look old. Avram wanted to look old, that people should know who's the father of the son, because they looked identical. Okay, that's it. Have a good night, everybody on Zoom.
Rabbi Shusterman, you still look pretty young.
Thanks.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi. Great, sure.
1 second. It doesn't say. How do you close this thing?
Maybe speak more.
Oh, end. 1 second. End. Okay. Bye. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. My body was at least here.
And your son was here.
And the Shem was here.
Good night. Nice seeing you
We did
guys.
an all-day workshop.